Hey guys, welcome back to DPS Ultra. Joe here, just me. Chris is not here at the moment. So we had another technical difficulty the last time we recorded. If any of you watched the latest Resident Evil Requiem episode. So we didn't really have any episodes to go out today. So I figured, why not show you guys how we actually record? I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who want to get into doing Let's Plays or gameplay videos or even streaming. And I figured I'd show you guys how at least we go about our recording process. Obviously, we don't stream. I mean, we have in the past, but we primarily just record. And so I figured, hey, it might be kind of fun to show you guys our process and how we go about, obviously, recording. So you're looking at OBS right here. This is version 32.1.2. You may have an older version. By the time you see this, it might be a newer version. In my experience, as long as it's a semi-recent version of OBS, they all pretty much do the same thing. So if you have an older version or a newer version, don't worry. This is largely going to be no different than whatever version of OBS you may have. So as you can see, this is our all the sources, meaning games that we've played. If we played them in the past, I like to keep them in the source area just so I don't have to re-add the game to OBS later. It kind of just picks up where we left off last time. And so I'm going to show just Resident Evil 4, the original. There you can see it right there, hopefully. I've already got it loaded up in the background. But before we get to that, I want to show you guys the settings that I have. Now, it's worth mentioning that this is the setup for, or these are the settings rather, for my setup. You may have a totally different setup. You may have a much more powerful PC, or you may have a weaker PC. So your mileage may vary. So don't think that you have to go off of just the settings that I have. You may want to have better settings. You may want to lower some stuff just so you don't run into lag. So let me just show you what I have. So as far as how we record, we only really utilize output. Oh, I probably need to, hang on. Go back to the desktop. There we go. Sorry about that. So we really only use output and video. For video, again, unless you have a super beefy PC, you really want to just record in 1920 by 1080. If you have a weaker PC, you can drop it down to 720p. If you have a nuclear powered PC, you can try running it in 4K, 3840 by 2160. And these are the settings that we use for the output. Now there's 4 different tabs here: streaming, recording, audio, and replay buffer. Again, we don't really stream anymore. We have in the past. I think it worked out okay. So I'm not really the person to ask or the video to watch as far as settings to choose for streaming. I'm sure there's a bunch of other streaming tutorials out there for OBS, but we're just going to be sticking to the recording tab. So these are all the recording settings that I use. Recording format, this is pretty important. The reason being is a lot of you may not have ever heard of MKV. You're probably much more familiar with like MP4. MKV is what I personally recommend, and the reason being is that if OBS crashes while you're recording, if your game crashes, if your PC crashes or shuts down, something like that, if you choose .mkv, your footage up to that point won't be lost. MKV retains all of the video information up to that point where the game or your PC or OBS crashes or whatever. So it won't be completely lost. If you choose .mp4 as the recording format and your PC, game, OBS crashes, all that footage is lost. What MKV does is actually, I think there's a setting you have to choose. I probably should have looked that up first. But MKV will make two different files of the video that you recorded, one in .mkv and then the other one .mp4. So if you record from beginning to end, everything works fine, no crashes, you start recording, you stop recording. All you have to do when you go to edit is to choose the .mp4 version, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. Video encoder, I have an NVIDIA graphics card. So you want to go with H.264. I can't remember if H.265 is an option, but H.265 is a newer encoding format. So, you know, your editing software of choice may not support H.265. H.264 is much more readily available. A lot more programs can read H.264. So my suggestion is just go off of H.264, at least for now. Maybe in a year or two, that'll change. But for now, I would just do H.264. Audio encoder, FFmpeg.AAC. That's the only audio encoder I've ever used. I don't know any of the other ones. I can't really comment on if they're better, if they're worse. I believe the first time I set up OBS, it auto-selected that for me, so I just kept it. Your audio tracks, this is going to be important also, because if you're just recording yourself, you don't have anybody on Discord or, you know, running maybe Spotify as well. It's important to tell OBS how many audio tracks you want it to recognize. For us, we have 3 audio tracks. Obviously the game audio, my audio, and Chris's audio or Discord. So with these 3 checked off, I'm telling OBS to recognize these audio tracks. If I wanted to also add like Spotify, for example, I'd want to go back here and check the 4th checkbox right there. So it'll know to capture my audio, Chris's audio, or Discord, game audio, and then like Spotify or, you know, any other type of source, really, audio source. Rescale output is disabled because I'm recording in 1080p. I have in the past recorded in 4K, or my desktop was in 4K rather, and I rescaled the output to 1080p. So it's basically taking that 4K image and downsampling it to 1080p. My luck with that has been very hit or miss. Sometimes it works great. Other times it ran like dog shit. So I like to just put everything in 1080p just to make it easier for myself, if I'm being honest. But also so when Chris and I go to record, we're not wasting our time by recording in 4K and trusting OBS to downsample it to a nice, smooth 1080p, 60 frames per second or whatever image. Everything's in 1080p, so OBS will read it in 1080p, and so that's why that's disabled. The encoder settings, this is also important because this is also going to determine your overall video quality. But at the same time, you also don't want it to be a gigantic video file, but also you don't want it to be a really shitty looking video as well. So because we primarily just record and we don't stream, I chose constant QP. There's a bunch of different options here. If you're somebody who does streaming primarily, this probably isn't the option you want to choose. I believe you want to choose variable bitrate, because, you know, everybody's internet goes up and down. A lot of people may not have the best connection, the best speed. while you're streaming. But again, we're just recording, so I left our rate control at constant QP. This number right here determines, again, the overall bit rate and video quality. The lower the number, I believe, is the better the quality of the video, but it also makes the video file very, very big. So I wanted to find a nice medium of good video quality and decent, not gigantic video size. And that seems to be 16. Again, your mileage may vary. That may work for you. It may not work for you. There's nothing wrong with going in and just changing the numbers, doing a quick, 10, 15 second recording, see how it looks, see what the video file size is. If it's too big, too small, you can go back in and adjust this. Keyframe interval, I'll be honest, I don't really know what that is. I know what a keyframe is, but I don't know exactly what that does. Again, OBS defaulted it to 2, so I just left it there. Preset, this determines how OBS draws the image of whatever it is that you're recording. In our case, it's a game. I just left it on better quality. Best quality made the video file gigantic, so I dropped it down to better quality, and that seemed to make the file size not gigantic, but it also made the video look good. So I just left it right there. High quality, same thing for tuning. OBS defaulted to it, so I left it there. Multipass mode. Largely, I don't think you'll ever have to choose any other option besides 2-pass. If you have a super crazy powerful computer, you may want to do 2-pass full resolution. If you have a really weak computer, you might want to do single pass. Again, it's worth just experimenting. Profile, I believe that's just the overall setting for OBS for all the settings. I just leave it at high. Look ahead and adaptive quantization. Again, I'm not exactly sure what that is. It defaulted to it, so I left it. And B frames to 2. Again, OBS defaulted to it. I left it. Everything works great. So, and then obviously video, the base canvas resolution is your desktop resolution. Mine right now is 1080p. If you want to, again, if you have a powerful computer and your desktop is 3840 by 2160, but you don't want to record in 3840 by 2160, you can have OBS output it to a lower resolution, in this case 1080p. Again, my desktop's 1080p, so that's why this is kind of grayed out, because there's nothing to really change. Audio, I have, where is it? Actually, I think it's right here. Here we go. So I have all my, excuse me, audio tracks to 192 hertz. That's obviously for good audio quality. You can bump it up to 256 if you really want to. Largely, I don't think it's worth going above 192 if you're going to be uploading to YouTube, because YouTube compresses the hell out of everything anyway. So, and if you record at a higher audio bit rate, it's just going to make the file size bigger, and nobody's going to be able to tell the difference unless they're watching the raw video file that comes from OBS, which pretty much nobody is except you. So 192 seems to be the sweet spot. I would just leave it at that. You can always bump it down if you want to. It really is just going to depend on your PC. Again, that's going to be, I'm going to say it 50 more times before the end of this video. If you have a kind of a weak PC, you might not want to do 192, maybe 128. If you have a super quantum powered gaming PC, you could probably do more of that if you wanted to, higher bitrate that is. But largely, I don't think it's worth your time or rendering later on to have it above 192. So as you can see down here in the mixer, we have Discord, which largely is Chris. When he hops on a Discord call and I share my screen to him, or he shares his screen to me, I want to make sure that if I'm recording, if I'm playing the game and recording, I want to get his audio. If he is playing the game and he shares his screen with me, I have to kind of do double duty because Discord is recording not only his voice, but his game audio. So that's 2 audio tracks in one right here when Chris plays a game. So I have to make sure that, number one, his voice is coming through, but number 2, if he's playing a game, that his game audio comes through as well. And that'll be on this track right here. As you can see, this is my audio track. You can see my levels right here. And then the game that we play, which I have in the background right now. So that's why this isn't moving, but it'll move in a second. Now, another part, this is very much going to be a your mileage may vary situation. And that is going to be with filters. And they keep changing this. Nope, not that one. I'll get back to that in a second, though. Don't let me forget that. Nope. Filters, here we go. Okay, so I believe this was my audio track that I clicked filters on, right? Yes, okay. So this is going to, the filters tab is going to determine if your audio sounds amazing or it sounds like garbage. And that is what all of these filters here will do. Now, again, I want to stress this, that my setup may not exactly be like your setup as far as what filters to choose, what settings. If I'm being honest, I'm never happy with how my audio sounds in the videos. It just comes down to how close you are to your, to your microphone, the room that you're in, what kind of microphone you have. That's all going to determine what settings to choose for your audio. I have been messing with these filters now for pretty much since we restarted the channel 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago. And I could just never seem to get it right. So, but it largely sounds how I want it to sound. You know, I go in every once in a while and tweak some stuff to see what sounds better, what sounds worse, things like that. So, but these are largely the 5 filters that you want to choose for your audio, for your microphone. The 2 biggest ones, I think, which I see a lot of people not doing on, like, when they stream or when they also do like Let's Plays, and that's the compressor and limiter. Sorry, I have a runny nose. What basically both of these do is stop your audio from peaking. So if you scream into, actually, I'll give you an example. So as you can see right here with my audio, Editing Joe, zoom in if you can. As you can see, my audio never goes further than this line right here, no matter how loud or how quiet I talk. Like, I could be all the way back here and it's still picking me up, and I'm all the way close to the mic now, and it never exceeds this level right here. If the audio goes too far up and you get to about this point, you run the risk of your audio peaking, which, if you don't know what that means, it makes the audio so loud that you almost hear like a I don't know how to explain it. It's just a sound that if you're wearing headphones or earbuds, it doesn't sound good when your audio goes this high. If I'm being honest, I could probably raise my audio a little bit to maybe about here. But, you know, again, I have a tendency sometimes to talk loudly when we record, and I have my headphones on, and sometimes I can't tell how loud I'm talking because we're playing a game and I usually have the volume up on the game pretty loud. And when you have loud volume in your ears, you tend to talk loud also. So I figured I would just leave my audio right here, and I end up usually adjusting my audio in the editing software that I use anyway. So I like to just keep it right here. Let's go back to filters. Oh, whoops. Yeah, so these are all a lot of strange words, I'm sure, that may not make a lot of sense to you. If you want to copy these settings, go for it. Again, my setup is going to be different than your setup. So if you choose to copy my settings, I would highly recommend that you do some test recordings with your voice to see how it sounds. If it sounds good, great. If it doesn't, go back and make some adjustments. You have one for your highs. This is a 3-band equalizer, obviously. You have sliders for your highs, your mids, and your lows. Your highs are obviously the high sounds, and the higher you slide this, the more sensitive your microphone is going to be to those high sounds. Your mid-tones here, same thing. It's going to catch everything that isn't high or low. If you find that it's not, your audio is not sounding good, you can always adjust this. And then your low sounds, obviously. I have kind of a low bassy voice. So this I usually have problems with. I'm adjusting this one probably more than these two, just to make sure I get the right sound. I don't want to mess with it right now because I think the last time we recorded it sounded okay, but I'm sure I'll probably go back and change it again at some point. Gain is... the easiest way to put it is gain is volume. So if your audio is quiet and you're like right up to the microphone when you're talking, you could always adjust this. So obviously if you drag it this way, it'll make it louder. If you drag it this way, it'll make it quieter. If you don't want to make any changes, then you can drag this to, or type here, just put 0.00 and it'll be neutral. My audio and Chris's audio, I have a gain filter on Chris's audio as well, but my audio and Chris's audio, for whatever reason, have a tendency to be quiet when I bring everything over to the editing software I use, Vegas. And so I usually have to go back in and adjust it anyway. Chris's audio always comes in quiet, no matter how loud I make his gain in OBS. So I'm kind of always fiddling with his volume. Sometimes, again, it sounds great. Sometimes it doesn't. It just kind of depends. So yeah, if you're not happy with your volume, you can always create a gain filter, which I should probably show you guys how to add these. Down here in the corner of the filters window, you click on that plus sign. This is where all your filters are. You can... excuse me, that's gross. You can add filters. There are like plugins you can download and to add more filters. I'm pretty happy overall with my selection of filters, so I'm not going to change or add or remove anything. One other thing I want to mention is you're probably looking at all my filters here, all 5 of them, and are wondering why they're in this order. And the reason for that is you can't, I mean, you can, but I wouldn't recommend it, but you can't just throw a filter in and, you know, make whatever settings you want it to be and then just leave it. OBS looks at your audio source, in this case, my microphone, in order from top to bottom. So it's going to look at the expander first, and then the 3-band equalizer, and then the compressor, and then the gain, and then the limiter. So from top to bottom, it's going to look at all these. So if you put, you know, gain first, limiter second, 3-band equalizer fifth, it's probably not going to sound that great. I looked at a few tutorials on filters, and largely this is the recommended order for my setup. Again, you may not need all these filters. You may only need gain and, you know, limiter. That's maybe all you use. If that's all you use, that's fine. Nowhere does it say that you have to have these 5. So again, if you use 5, great. If you use 2, if you use 8 filters and that works for your setup, perfect. Go for it. This is just for my setup. And again, you're probably going to be messing with these every single time you record just to find that perfect sound. I'm, like I mentioned earlier, I mess with these probably every time we record, but I just make little tweaks here and there just to find the good sound. Sometimes I find it, sometimes I don't. It just kind of depends. Okay, so that is largely it as far as OBS goes. Again, I don't stream too much, so I'm not the best person to ask for advice in regards to streaming. We streamed twice before. It largely was okay. I wasn't happy with some stuff, but I think for never streaming before, I think our stream sounded okay. I was not happy with the volume of my microphone or Chris's microphone or the game audio, but you know, I just chalked it up to probably a setting that I couldn't find, and I was rushing. And so this is just largely the setup that I use. I'm happy with everything. More or less always works. Unless you're recording in 4K and you play a graphic intensive game, in which case OBS will not work. Well, it'll work, but not in the way that you want it to. It'll run at like 3 frames a second. It'll give you a little error message down here. I don't remember exactly what it says, but it'll basically say something's overloaded, which is basically OBS's way of telling you that it's processing too much and it's having trouble keeping up. And to stop recording, fix whatever you need to fix. In my case, it was the resolution was too high at 4K. So I had to drop everything to 1080p, and then it worked fine. So let's get into the game. So again, Resident Evil 4. When I go back over to Resident Evil 4, you guys should hear the game audio here in a second. Oh, maybe not.
Resident Evil 4.
I don't know if I can... I can't hear the audio. Maybe it'll... The audio will show up in the...
Never forget.
In the video while I'm editing this, so hopefully. So yeah, this is if the game audio is playing, which I hope it is. This is let me see if I can get back over to OBS.
The virus broke out in a nearby mountain community in Raccoon City and hit the peaceful little town.
Oh, there you are.
With a devastating blow crippling its very foundation.
So the game is playing.
Not taking any chances.
And you can still see the game audio right here. I hope it's playing. I won't know until I edit this.
With the whole affair gone public, the United States government.
Oh, I should probably. What the hell is wrong with me? I should probably show how to. Sorry. I should probably show how to add a source. So let me mute this really quick. Okay, so down here is, like I mentioned earlier, your sources, and this is going to be the games that you play, anything that you want OBS to record, video and audio. There are a lot of different options here: window capture, game capture. So if you want to record directly to the game that you're playing, I recommend this one. A lot of people like doing display capture, which is actually how I'm recording this right now. I haven't really heard any negative things about using display capture to play a game. But to me, it just makes more sense to use game capture. Oh, that kid's not happy. It's just easier for me. I hit game capture and then, you know, Resident Evil 4, you can see some of the games that we played in the past right here. Usually if it's a series, I'll leave the source, or the game rather, in the sources. So as you can see, Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 4 audio, Silent Hill 2, Order 13, Kuon, Routine, Umagari, bunch of others. This is the stuff that I use to capture device to record like Resident Evil Requiem, which is directly from my PS5. That's this right here. So you want to do that for video and audio. That's the important thing. There was a couple times where I recorded just the game video and I forgot to capture the audio. So make sure you do video and audio. So again, game capture right here. If it's something you've never played before, You're going to type the name of it right here. It doesn't have to be crazy. As you can see, RE4, SH2, Order 13, so on and so forth. Once you do that, it'll bring you to this screen. From here, you can have it capture any full screen application or a specific window. I always choose this one because from there, you can have OBS look at only a specific window. So in this case, I would want it to be Resident Evil 4, even though I already have it running right now. I never mess with this, so I wouldn't worry about it. The one thing that I would check off, though, is right here, limit capture frame rate. So if you are playing a game that has an uncapped frame rate that's kind of all over the place, OBS may not capture the video correctly, or the frame rate at least. So you never really want OBS to record more than what you want it to. So in this case, you want to check limit capture frame rate. So if you're only wanting to capture at 60 frames per second, 30 frames per second, whatever, OBS will never capture more than that. So I always recommend checking this box right here. Capture cursor, if you want your mouse shown in the recording, that's what that's for. It literally doesn't make a difference either way. And then all this other stuff, I've never touched it, so I recommend just leaving it, and then you're going to hit OK. I'm not going to hit OK right now because I already have RE4 in my sources. From there, once you do video, you want to head over to audio and application audio output capture. And very similar to the video, you want to make it easy, I would make it the same name of the game video, but then just add audio afterwards. So again, RE4 audio, Order 13 audio, routine audio, I think this says Silent Hill 2 audio, Discord, stuff like that. And then from down here, you're going to choose whatever audio you want. Again, this is Resident Evil 4 or Biohazard 4. And then you're going to click Add Executable and then hit OK. And then that will basically add this right here. I didn't really want to add this, so I'm going to delete it. And that's it. That's basically OBS in a nutshell. Again, my setup will differ from yours. Your stuff may look and sound better. And if so, great. Like I said, I recommend going through and messing with settings. It's not going to make your computer blow up or fuck anything up in OBS if you do a quick 10-15 second test recording, see how it looks, see how it sounds. If it looks like shit, close it, go back to OBS, make some adjustments. One bad thing is you can't really make adjustments on on the fly. So like you can't, while you're recording, go back to OBS and change settings. You have to end the recording, make the changes, hit start recording, do all that stuff all over again. Just basically until you find a good setting and sound and look that you're happy with. So that's that. So from here, let's head over to Vegas, my editing software. All right, so we are now in Vegas. This is the editing software that I use to edit DPS Ultra. I know a lot of people use like Premiere or After Effects or I forget what the other, I think it's called DaVinci. A lot of people use different programs to edit. I've been using Vegas for over 20 years now. I'm just really familiar with it. I'll admit it's not the best editing software out there, but like I said, I'm familiar with it. I've been using it forever, so that's just what I like to use. So as you can see up here, these are two files. This is the recording that I just did a few minutes ago about OBS. And then this is our title card that I put at the beginning of every episode. Just a little, hey, this is DPS Ultra, and then we jump right into the episode. So what I'm going to do is bring the file here down into the timeline. And one thing you might notice before I let go is you'll see 4 tracks here. One is going to be the video, one's going to be my audio, one would have been Chris's audio if he was recording with me, and then the other one is the game audio, so Resident Evil 4. So let's go ahead and drop that in. Now, as you can see, everything is already sort of showing. Vegas likes to, when I import everything into Vegas, it'll preload everything into Vegas. So by the time everything's done loading, I can just drag all the files into the timeline here. And then everything is usually good to go. So as you can see here, this is my audio right here. I don't know. I might have to. I don't know if it's going to play my audio or not. Probably not. Let's do this really quick. Application, desktop. And I believe we do that. All right, let's see if that plays. There we go. Sorry about that. There we go. So that's me. So now, like I was mentioning earlier, I mentioned how my audio sometimes comes through very quietly. If anybody's familiar with audio software, these lines right here represent obviously my audio. If I zoom in a little bit, you can see the little lines here are just silence, no sound at all. And then these parts here are when I'm talking. This is the audio lines right here don't get very big, which means I'm coming through very quietly. I don't know how it's going to come through in this particular video, this tutorial video, but this is what I normally do to fix that. So again, this is a Vegas thing. I'm sure other editing softwares have this as well. For me, it's called Normalize. And what this is going to do is it's going to take the absolute highs and the absolute lows of the audio track and normalize them. It's gonna even them out. So let's hit that and then normalize. And as you can see, it bumped the audio up big time. So it bumps everything up and it takes into account the highs and the lows and just evens everything out. So let's do a little test really quick. Let's pick right here. So this is the pre-edited, I haven't touched it at all, audio directly from OBS. So let's hear what this sounds like. Gameplay videos or even streaming. And I figured I'd show you guys how at least we go about our recording process. Obviously we don't. So that's pre-edited. I haven't done anything. I haven't touched anything. Except for what OBS did as far as like the filters go. So now if I right click and go to normalize, now let's hear what it sounds like. Gameplay videos or even streaming. And I figured I'd show you guys how, so it bumps it up quite a bit. And then if you do that and it ends up being too loud, you can still go in and fix that. So you can either do that from the slider right here, or you can do it from the actual audio track. You can drag from the top and that will change the audio output as well. I don't really like having my audio that high, so I do usually drop it down to about there, somewhere around there. Chris's audio, like I said, he always comes through quiet, so I always have to bump his audio up. So you know, my voice and the game audio aren't overpowering his audio. So Chris's audio is usually much even higher than this. But again, when we record through Discord will compress the hell out of the audio signal and make it come through very quiet. And so that's why I have to bump his audio up even more than what it is right here. And his audio never peaks. It's never too loud. He usually comes through just fine. And then, like I said, my audio, I bump to probably about somewhere in that neighborhood. And then the game audio, I usually do the same thing too. So let's see if it actually recorded the
Resident Evil 4.
I don't know if I can. So that's, again, untouched game audio. I haven't done any normalizing or anything like that. Now, this Resident Evil 4 is... There are a lot of games that the audio will come through very quietly. For some reason, Capcom games and I don't know, there are some other games where the audio just blasts through your speakers or your headphones. So it kind of depends on, again, exactly what it is you're going to be playing, and if you even need to do any audio adjustments. If I do the same thing to the game audio track that I did to my audio by normalizing it, that bumps it up quite a bit, and that may actually be too loud. So from there, I can do one of two things. I can either leave it the way it is, or I can go back to how it was and leave it as it is. The problem with that, though, is during the parts of Resident Evil 4 where it's very quiet, like there's no enemies, maybe Leon's just running through the woods, there's nothing to shoot at, nothing chasing you, nothing attacking you, it can be very quiet. So if I leave it the way it is, those parts will come through, obviously, again, very quietly. But if I normalize it during those quiet points, then those quiet points will come through louder. So it's just really a matter of if you prefer that, if you don't mind people can't hear the quiet parts, if you want them to hear everything, you can normalize it, or you can, again, leave it the way it is. It just really depends. So let's hear, I'm going to mute my audio really quick so we can hear just the game audio. So this is unedited, unnormalized game audio for Resident Evil 4.
1998. I'll never forget it. It was the year when those grisly murders occurred in the Arklay Mountains.
So that's unedited. Now if we go back and normalize it, this is what it sounds like normalized.
1998. I'll never forget it. It was the year when those grisly murders occurred in the Arklay Mountains.
So it's obviously it's louder. You might be thinking, well, why do I have to normalize it? Why can't I just go over to the gain here and bump the audio up that way? Well, the problem with that is if you do that with the original audio, all you're doing is turning the volume up. But with normalizing, it's not just turning the volume up. Again, it's taking the highest highs and the lowest lows of the audio and normalizing it. So it's not just turning up the volume. It's making it overall better sound, better volume. And like I said, you can, even after normalizing, go back and still make adjustments. So if you like how the normalized audio sounds, but it's just a bit too loud, you can go in and bump it down, and you'll still get the benefit of the lowest lows of the audio being bumped up. It just won't blow your ears out. So let's hear what this sounds like normalized, but with the audio volume bumped down a little bit.
1998. I'll never forget it. It was the year when those grisly murders occurred in the Arklay Mountains.
So that's what that sounds like normalized, but with the volume turned down just a little bit. Again, this may not work for everybody. That's just what I have to do because, like I said, all the audio sources running through OBS just comes in quietly. Even if I go in and manually bump up everybody's audio in OBS, it still comes through quietly. So it just kind of depends. You may need to never normalize, but you also may have to. If you're an expert on audio adjustments in OBS, you may not have to do any of this shit. You may just dump it into editing software of your choice, cut some stuff, add in some funny ha-has, and then, render, and that's it. I'm probably... I think overall I'm making it a little bit easier for myself with my setup in both OBS and the way that I edit in Vegas. I'm sure there are easier ways to do everything. It's always a learning process with these, these various programs, because there's so many ways you can change things, edit things, add things, remove things to make things sound better and to make things easier for you in the overall recording process. So like I mentioned earlier, go in, just mess around with stuff, change some stuff, add some stuff, take away some stuff, whatever you got to do. And then just do a quick test recording. If you want to do Let's Plays, throw a game on there, record for 30 seconds, hit stop, go listen to it, see how it sounds. If you're happy with it, awesome. Then you're ready to go. If you're not happy with it, go back and make some adjustments. I can tell you that the current way that Chris and I record, we've been doing that now for about 3.5 years. And I'm still learning stuff about OBS and about, editing. You're always learning stuff. So one thing I would recommend is definitely don't stick to one set of options for your setup. There are always ways to improve, which, like I said, go through, do a test recording, see how it looks, see how it sounds. If you're happy with it, great. But there are probably more things that you can adjust or change to make it even better. I don't recommend just picking stuff willy-nilly and then hitting record, because if you do like what Chris and I do, where we record for about 3 to 4 hours every recording session, and if I don't test these setups first before we record, that could have been a 4-hour recording session just down the drain, because everything is unusable. The video, the audio, everything. And that's the last thing that I want to do. I don't want to waste Chris's time, and I certainly don't want to waste my time. I want to just plug everything in, hit record. We recorded an episode, hit stop recording, make sure that I recorded correctly, and then move on to the next game or the next episode or whatever we're doing. And then the last thing I'll show you is, so let's just pretend that this is a complete episode of DPS Ultra. Got to add in the little title card here. So normally what I do is I'll drag it over. Let's do this. I'll drag it to the very beginning. And then, so this is the first thing you guys see in an episode. Just again, telling you this is DPS Ultra. Normally I do, actually, you know what? Let's make this a little fun. Whoops. Let's do this. I'm deciding this on the fly. So let's see how this works. No, I don't want to save changes. We're going to go and let's bring in a unedited episode of DPS Ultra. So I believe this is, so this is the most recent episode of Resident Evil Requiem. By the time you guys see this video, this tutorial that I'm showing you, this episode has already gone out. But I will show you what a raw, unedited episode of DPS Ultra looks like. So, whoops. All right. So this is the complete raw, unedited footage or video, I guess, of Resident Evil. Is this where we started? Oh, it's doing that thing again. Vegas has been doing this thing where sometimes it will not load in the whole episode for some reason. Hang on 1 second. Actually, let's do this. Let's do a new. And then editing Joe, don't show any of this or blur it out, please. Let's do, and just drag it in there. Yeah, that usually fixes it. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So now this is the real raw, unedited footage of I believe it's episode 7 of Resident Evil Requiem. So again, as you can see, this is what I was talking about with our audio levels. This one right here is my audio. This down here is Chris's audio. And then this is the game audio. So this is what everything sounds like. Again, unedited. I didn't do any normalizing. I didn't change any audio levels. I haven't done anything. This is what it looks and sounds like. All right. I don't remember how to play this. Where are we? There. Two.
Oh, I remember. At least vaguely. Yeah, we have the fuses, and we had to put like all 3 of them into a fuse box thing.
All right, so that's what it looks and sounds like. Again, completely unedited. I haven't done any adjusting or anything like that. So let's change that. So let's go to, again, normalizing. And as you can see, it changes my volume quite a bit. It bumps everything up. Again, I don't like it to be that loud. I have kind of a low bassy voice, and sometimes when I'm playing a game and the volume's really loud, I talk louder than I intend to. So I'm going to bump my volume down ever so slightly, about right there. Now Chris's audio is the one that we're probably not going to touch very much. So let's normalize his. And even with that normalization, his audio, it goes up, but not that much. But I'm probably just going to leave his audio alone because, like I said, his audio gets very compressed and the volume is very low. So I may bump his down like a smidge, like probably about right there. And then the game audio, for some reason, the game audio, I remember now, the game audio didn't change very much when I normalize it, and I'm not really sure why. So this is what the newly adjusted audio setup with normalizing my audio, Chris's audio, and technically the game audio, but it didn't really change. So let's see what this sounds like. Okay, I have 1, 2.
Oh, I remember. At least vaguely. Yeah, we have the fuses, and we had to put like all 3 of them into a fuse box thing.
So that's what that sounds like with everything bumped up, audio levels, normalized, stuff like that. It makes it much easier to obviously hear if you're watching on a TV. That seems to be the biggest issue I have with the way that I edit, the episodes as far as the audio levels go. If you watch our videos on like your phone, for example, the audio probably comes through very loudly, versus like your TV and your TV speakers, or if you have like a sound bar or a surround sound system, our audio probably comes through probably quieter than I want it to, but I don't really there's nothing I can really do about that because phone speakers are a lot smaller, but they also play very loudly versus like TV speakers, sound bars, surround sound systems that are much more powerful, that don't have to try as hard to push out the audio. So largely the audio that comes out of a TV speaker or a sound bar or surround sound system is pretty close to, I guess, natural sounding, but it can also come through very quietly still, even after I bump up everybody's audio. So I never really have an issue with our episodes playing on like smartphones because they usually sound, again, they're very loud. It comes through very loud, even if you have the volume kind of down, versus TV, surround sound bars, where they come through pretty close to as intended, but they're still pretty quiet. So there's not really a whole lot I can do about that. I'm still trying to find like the perfect sort of middle ground but because every game that we play has different audio design and audio levels, it's almost impossible to find that sweet spot to where, you know, I'm not too loud, or Chris isn't too loud, or the game audio is not too loud. Finding that sweet spot is very difficult. And I work on that more or less every single time I edit, to the point where I'm hoping one day I can find that perfect sweet spot so I don't really have to make as many adjustments when I'm editing. So hopefully that happens one day, but, you know, we'll see. Now, like I mentioned, the game audio, obviously we want it loud enough for people to hear the game audio, but this being a Let's Play, our voices are technically more important than the game audio, but we also don't want to just completely disregard the game audio, because some people do watch our videos wanting to see the gameplay, and not just us two idiots babbling over each other. So we don't want the game audio to be 100% volume. We want it to be loud enough to where you can hear the game, but also hear me and Chris talking as well. So let's find the loudest part of this episode, which I'm guessing is, I'll just pick right here. So again, this is going to be what this part of the game sounds like. Game audio is at full volume. I haven't changed anything yet. I have adjusted mine and Chris's audio. So let's hear what this portion of the video sounds like with mine and Chris's audio, you know, adjusted and bumped down slightly, but the game audio is at full volume. Oh my god.
Good timing on the Molotov.
No. Excuse me. Oh god. Ow. Okay, so it's pretty loud, the game audio. It actually didn't sound that bad, but again, the with this being a Let's Play, mine and Chris's audio is technically more important, but I don't want to completely turn the game audio down all the way, obviously, but I want it low enough to where you can still hear the game, but still hear me and Chris as well. So let's bump this down, let's say about a quarter, and let's see what that sounds like. Oh my god.
Good timing on the Molotov.
No. Excuse me. Oh god. Ow. So a little bit better. It's still pretty loud though. So let's bump it down maybe about right there. Just a little higher than the halfway mark. So let's hear what that sounds like. Oh my god.
Good timing on the Molotov.
No. Excuse me. Oh god. So that's pretty good. That's about where I want it to be. But it is worth mentioning that this is a particularly loud part of the episode, as you can see by the audio levels here. So let's leave the audio where it's at, and let's go to a quiet part. And then we'll leave the audio a little above halfway, and we'll listen to this part, and then I'll bump the audio up back to 100% during the same part. So let's see what that sounds like. So this is a little above halfway for the game audio. Yeah, apparently there was we missed out on it because we only record like once a month, but apparently there was a bug in this game that, so you can still kind of hear the game. It's still pretty quiet. I'm coming through very loudly. So I'm going to bump me down maybe about right there. And then let's bump the game audio all the way to 100 in the same spot, and let's see what that now sounds like. So let's bump that back up, and let's hear what that sounds like. Yeah, apparently there was we missed out on it because we only record like once a month, but apparently there was a bug in this game that... So it sounds a little bit better. The game audio, you can... Again, there's nothing going on. It's just Grace running around, panting with me telling a story about a bug that was in the game that got patched out. So it's, like I said, it's constant tweaking and, you know, adjusting volume to find that sweet spot. So in this particular part of the episode where there isn't a whole lot of stuff going on, it sounds good. But then again, once I get to, you know, like this part right here at full volume, I'm just like, fucking whatever.
I think there's way bigger shit to worry about.
See, so it's pretty hard to hear what Chris is saying because of the loud volume. And granted, some of it was because of, I think we lost a little bit of a connection there on Discord. But that's at full volume. So if we bring it back down to maybe about there, about right there. And then let's hear what that sounds like now. I'm just like, fucking whatever.
I think there's way bigger shit to worry about than paper towels.
So that sounds a lot better. You can still hear the game. You can kind of hear what Chris is saying. Obviously, you can hear me. And that's at about, I don't know, maybe 55% volume. Maybe 53, I don't know. So that's about the adjusting that I have to do for finding the sweet spot to where you can still hear the game, but you can also hear me and Chris talking. Sometimes I'll go through and I'll make cuts to where, like, oh, I'm happy with the volume as it is here, you know, being at about 55%. Whoops. Or is it right here? I'm happy with the volume here at about 55%, but let's say I want this quiet part at full volume. So I can always go in and split that or make a cut there and then bump this up to 100% and make a cut there and then drop it back down to about 55%. So let's hear about 55% volume and then 100% volume and then 55% volume. Thank you. Get rigged. All right. Yeah, apparently there was a... we missed out on it because we only record like once a month. But apparently there was a... So you can kind of hear around this area where there was a sudden jump in volume. All right. Yeah, so you can kind of hear it. So you don't really want to put that in the episode because, you know, some people might hear it and go, whoa, what was that? And then suddenly the volume's louder. And then when you get to here, and then suddenly the volume gets quiet again, it just doesn't sound very good. You want it to be one seamless sort of volume. Now, a trick to that is you could always do jump cuts, which is something that I've started doing in the episodes to cut out the boring stuff or the stuff where there's just nothing happening, to kind of mask that. But largely, I try to make the volume across the board pretty in line. Like, I don't want one part to be really loud and one part to be really quiet. But there are times where you don't really have a choice. You have to make adjustments, which I think a lot of times people will understand when there's adjustments like that. But imagine going to like a movie theater and watching a movie and the volume is just all over the place. Like, the parts that are quiet are really loud. And then all of a sudden there's a loud part, but it's kind of quiet. It's very jarring when that stuff happens. So I try not to do stuff like that. But that's pretty much what I do with the episode. I'll go in and make adjustments to the audio first until I'm happy with it. And then that's when I go in and actually start editing the episode. So let's find the part where we actually started. HDR, turn that shit off.
And stuff like that.
Yeah. I'll figure it out. And welcome back to Resident Evil Requiem. All right, so that's where the episode starts. So let's cut everything before that. Cut all that out. We're going to drag everything. Actually, let's do this. Control A. drag everything to the beginning. And then editing Joe, cut this part out or blur everything. I don't care what you do. And we'll get the title card. And then I'm going to drag the title card to the beginning. Oops. And then we'll do it to about right there. So this is what you guys see in the final product. And welcome back to Resident Evil Requiem. And that's the opening to the episode. And then from there, I just kind of go through, and it makes it a little easy to find the areas I need to cut, because sometimes you'll see spots where there's just like nothing happening. Like obviously you can see here, Chris was telling a story while I was just playing.
Oh my god, my headphones are driving me fucking crazy. I don't know if like my USB cable has like...
Or he's talking about his headphones. But I can go through and see just areas where there isn't a whole lot going on. And so I'll cut that out of the episode just to speed things up a little bit. And sometimes I can't find spots to really cut out. So it just kind of depends. And then once I'm done, go there, and then we want to render. And these are the settings that I typically use for each episode. 10 megabits per second is kind of low. Normally I do about 14 megabits per second. 60 frames per second, 1920 by 1080. You can all see some of the stuff up here as well. Main concept, I usually do NV encoder, which uses my graphics card to render, but NVIDIA, actually, I think it was NVIDIA. NVIDIA put out an update in their drivers that to where I don't remember the exact verbiage, but Vegas, it won't work anymore. Vegas won't work with the NV encoder, which makes me sad because now rendering takes a lot longer. But it still takes, you know, I won't say a lot longer, but if it was going to take an hour to render on the NV encoder, it probably takes like an hour and a half on main concept HEVC. It's not a gigantic deal, but it's just kind of annoying, especially when I'm on a, you know, I got to get an episode out tomorrow and I'm rendering it and it's like 8 o'clock at night and I have to be at work the next day and I'm just now getting around to rendering. So it's kind of annoying, but it's not, you know, the end of the world or anything like that. This is for constant bit rate and variable bit rate. I'm rendering in constant bit rate, so that's why it's on HEVC CBR. Similar to how it was in OBS a while back. Best quality is the best picture, but the largest file size. Better quality is like a pretty good, not exactly medium because that'd be balanced, but better quality is good picture, good file size. I usually just leave it there. With the settings as it is now, if I hit render, we're looking at 6 gig file size approximately. But if I change it to best, all right, well, never mind then. I guess just call me a liar, but I'll leave it at better quality anyway. And then I hit render, and then I'll usually make a thumbnail, upload the episode, make it the description, make the title, add the tags, schedule the episode for whatever day, typically Mondays between like 9 and 10 a.m. Just kind of depends. And then that's the episode. So anyway, thanks for checking out this. I don't know if I want to call this a tutorial. It's more just how, again, my process of recording episodes, editing episodes. I wouldn't call this a tutorial, but if you want to take anything from this episode, by all means, go for it. But that's basically it, guys. So thanks for checking this out. And hopefully we will be back with new episodes next week. See ya.